Every year, I'd ask her to bless me with great wealth. But then, in the 9th year, my childhood sweetheart returned alive. I heard you've been telling everyone that I'm dead. I immediately burst into tears. Damn it! No wonder my luck has always been so rotten. Turns out this girl had faked her death. All the incense I've burned over these years was wasted. At 5 o'clock in the morning, I hurriedly got out of bed, took a taxi to the cemetery, and bought the cheapest bouquet from the gatekeeper. Remembering last night's dream, I started cursing in front of Shen Baiu's gravestone. You spend money way too fast. Can't you find a job down there? Stop appearing in my dreams asking for money whenever you're broke. Do I look like your personal ATM? The person in the photo smiled gently back at me. I squatted down and began burning paper ingots, still muttering, asking Shen Buyu to bless me. Every time I visit you, I spend so much on taxes and offerings. Please make some connections down there. And bless me with some fortune too. If I get rich, I promise to burn even more paper gold for you. Doesn't that sound fair? A chilly breeze suddenly blew from behind me, as if Shen Buyu was responding. I'm leaving now. Don't forget to bless me with wealth. I waved my hand and headed down the mountain. On my way home, as usual, I bought 7 lottery tickets. Won $200. Hey how? That girl Shen Buyu still needs scolding after all. She behaves herself after a good scolding. Next time I visit, I'll reward her with KFC. As soon as I arrived at the office, the boss summoned me to his room. Why are you late again? That disgusting old geezer asked, patting my shoulder as he spoke. I calmly moved aside. I was still a minute away from being late. What's the difference anyway? Is it because your home is too far from the office? I actually have an apartment near the office, if you're willing. I politely smiled. Thank you for your kind offer, Mr. Chen. But I'm afraid my girlfriend wouldn't agree. The old man furrowed his brows. You have a girlfriend? I've never seen her before. Chen Dai, if you want to meet her, you'll have to go to the cemetery. The old man snorted coldly. What do you mean by that? My eyes turned red. I feigned grievance. My girlfriend passed away. If you want to meet her, you'll have to go to the cemetery, right? But you should meet her soon. She's really stingy. If any woman talks to me for a while, she starts showing up at their house, watching them. The old man's face suddenly changed. You're still young and you're superstitious? I wore a mysterious look. I lowered my voice, Mr. Chen. You better believe it. The girls who were bothering me before, within a month, they either jumped into a river or hanged themselves. It's really eerie. It even made the news. Don't believe me, I'll show you. I rolled out of Mr. Chen's office. My work buddy, Ziyan, quietly asked me, Did that old man do anything to you? I raised an eyebrow. No. I told her about my glorious history. She was so scared, she almost peed her pants. What I said wasn't even a rumor. The 2 girls who kept bothering me, indeed, for unknown reasons, committed suicide. It really did make the news. I was even interviewed by reporters. Becoming famous in this way. I'm really sorry. Gradually, my reputation for being unlucky with women spread, and eventually, no one dared to introduce me to any more bad apples. This Chen Dai is a new hire, and after just a few days, he dared to set his sights on me. If he's not afraid of dying, let him try. Although the old man didn't dare to touch me anymore, he started nitpicking at my work and exploiting me. I couldn't hold my temper anymore, and after a huge argument with the old man, I took KFC to visit Shen Buyu. I figured I was about to lose my job. The next day, I woke up naturally and went to the office to process my resignation. But Ziyan told me that the old man had been in a car accident last night. The department had a new leader who had been parachuted in. This meant I didn't have to resign anymore. I happily hugged Ziyan, shouting, "Your dead white moonlight is amazing, huh?" This old man gets into trouble. and she starts showing her powers. I grinned exactly. I burn incense for her every day. And the new boss is really beautiful. Just asked about her. You didn't even see her. She's more beautiful than any star. How beautiful can she be? Wait, I'll see for myself. While chatting with Ziyan, I was thinking about burning 2 more sticks of incense for Shen Buyu after work. Suddenly, a round of applause broke out. A magnetic voice came through. 10 minutes later, everyone, let's have a meeting. I casually glanced over and froze. Shit, Shen Buyu. This girl heard I was going to burn incense for her, and she couldn't wait to show up. In the next second, Shen Buyu tilted her head and made eye contact with me. Well, how do I look? Ziyan quietly poked my arm. Her voice was excited. I dumbly nodded. If I wasn't mistaken, that girl was still smirking at me. In these 10 minutes, my emotions were like a roller coaster. Shen Buyu came back to life. No! She should never have been dead. How is she not dead? Before I could think more, Ziyan dragged me into the meeting room. Shen Buyu sat in the office chair, her expression indifferent, OT looking at me again. Then, everyone started reporting their work to Shen Buyu, crossing looking serious and proper. Who could tell that she wet the bed in 1st grade? It was like a miracle. Since entering, I had been staring at the new boss. Well, I better be more restrained. Ziyan, slacking off, sent me a green bubble. Reply. Go ahead, you can leave first. Don't wait for me. Okay. I understand. Good luck. I don't think you do. Who can understand the feeling of seeing my childhood sweetheart dead and then resurrected? And now she's my boss? Alright, that's all for today. Meeting adjourned. After everyone left, I waited until I had the chance to confront this girl. Manager Fang, do you have any work to report? Shen Buyu looked at me in confusion. Shen Buyu, you little brat, pretending not to know me? Or pretending to have amnesia? Hearing the distance and politeness in her tone, I laughed angrily. Manager Fang, you must be mistaken. This should be our first meeting. I couldn't hold back anymore. I grabbed Shen Buyu's ear. There's a scar on your ear bone. It's from when I hit you with a stone when you were 8. Now tell me again that I've mistaken you for someone else. It hurts. Step by step ... I'm sorry. I won't say it again. Hearing that familiar nickname, I finally let go. Close friends all call me Fang Zhu. Or a bit more familiarly, they call me little sister-in-law. But only Shen Buyu, this girl, has called me step by step since we were kids. It's because I was shorter than her when we were little. I quickly asked, aren't you dead? How are you alive now? You aren't back from the dead for revenge, are you? Just because I bought you Wallace instead of KFC yesterday? Shen Buyu, confused, said, who told you I died? Shen Buyu and I are childhood sweethearts. We grew up together. She's a clingy person. When I ignored her, she would cry and complain. Although she's a year older than me, she begged her dad to delay her school entrance just so she could go with me. From then on, this clingy girl, I could never get rid of her. In my senior year of high school, I was so stressed from studying that I decided to go back to my northern hometown for the winter break to relax. At first, I didn't tell Shen Buyu. This girl has been inseparable from me since we were kids. Every year, we went on family trips together. If she found out, I knew I wouldn't have a single quiet day. But eventually, Shen Buyu found out, and she insisted on coming to see me. I had to stop and calm her down. She finally agreed to wait a week. She said she would meet me after I returned. But because I casually replied, I'm not used to all the nagging without you around, this girl got a bit narcissistic. You're missing this princess, huh? So that night, she secretly bought a train ticket to come find me without telling her family. On her way here, she got into a car accident. Luckily, she was rescued in time. She barely survived. At the time, Shen Buyu was covered in blood, but she still tried to joke with me. I'm not even married to you yet. I'm not ready to die. She told me to focus on my studies, OT to let her matters distract me, and not to take her problems onto myself. But just a few days later, I received the terrible news at school. Shen Buyu died from a post-surgery infection. I didn't even get to see her one last time. She was begging me last night, buy me a small cake after school tomorrow. She said the medicine tasted too bitter. But today, I will never see her again. The clingy girl will never cling to me again. Shen Buyu explained to me. At that time, I was transferred to Guangxi for treatment. Maybe I told you I was dead, so you wouldn't be distracted during the college entrance exams. That's why they said I died. I remained silent for a few seconds. Are you sure the latter reason wouldn't make me more distracted? Since she wasn't dead, then it's time to pay back the money she owes. Shen Buyu suddenly took a step back. When did I ever owe you money? All the incense and offerings I've given you over the years. It's cost me a lot of money. Not less than 80,000, at least 100,000. Shen Buyu turned and left. Just consider me dead. I quickly grabbed her arm, not letting her leave. I don't care. Then consider it as incense I burned for you in advance. You'll be able to use it when you go down. You owe me. Shen Buyu flicked my forehead. She curled her lips. Fine. Sister, let me treat you to a meal. We went to a Western restaurant near the office. Shen Buyu talked to me about her life abroad. I casually asked, then why did you suddenly come back? For someone I've been thinking about day and night. She stared at me. Her gaze bolder and more intense than when we were younger. So hot that I couldn't bear to look at her anymore. I could only pretend to look at the street scenery outside. Shen Buyu drove me home. When we got out of the car, this girl actually had the nerve to want to come upstairs for water. We've been childhood sweethearts, after all. I just want to see what your living situation is like. Since she treated me to a fancy meal, I agreed. Once inside, I headed straight for the kitchen to get her some water. Shen Buyu stayed in the living room. By the time I realized what had happened, it was already too late. Shen Buyu was staring at a photo of herself on the cabinet. She was staring at the person in the photo with a charming look. But Shen Buyu was smiling like a silly puppy. Fang Xiu, I didn't expect you to secretly keep my photo. I knew it. You must have fallen for my looks. Having a crush on me is nothing to be ashamed of. That's your memorial photo. In front of the photo, there's a small incense burner and some apples that had been offered for who knows how many days. Already rotten. Shen Buyu looked as if she had been let down. So you usually honor me with rotten apples? Don't you know what I like to eat? This girl has always been spoiled. She likes to eat whatever's expensive. With my salary, I can't afford that. I coughed lightly, feeling a bit guilty. When I bought them, they were good apples. At least you have something to eat. Besides, you're not even dead, are you? If I really had died, you would have brought me back to life. This morning, I was woken up by the smell of incense. I rubbed my eyes and went to the living room. I saw a vague figure in the kitchen, and I was so scared I yelled, shit. After 2 seconds of silence, I looked at her and gave a dry laugh. Sorry, I forgot you came back to life. Shen Buyu, you made this meal? How did you know the password to my house? She looked smug, serving soup while saying, the password is still our birthdays. I didn't expect you to still be using it. From childhood to now, Shen Buyu and I shared the same password. It was a combination of our birthdays, but I was forced into it. Because if I didn't use it, this girl wouldn't give me any pocket money. I stubbornly said, I'm just used to it. I hadn't even swallowed a spoonful of soup when her words suddenly made me choke. Starting today, I'm moving in with you. I noticed a black suitcases in the living room. Without thinking, I directly refused. Shinbuyu looked aggrieved. I just got back from abroad. I haven't found a place to stay yet. I'll stay here for a few days. I'll move out as soon as I find a place. Seeing that I still didn't say anything, she suddenly crouched down, shaking my arm and looking up at me. We made a promise when we were kids to apply to the same university for the college entrance exams, to work at the same company after graduation, to live together after we start working. Step by step, I beg you. Her eyes were sparkling, like an eager little puppy. Her fingers quietly scratched my palm, making me feel a light, tickling sensation. For some unknown reason, I actually nodded in agreement. After Shinbuyu moved in, I realized I had brought a big trouble upon myself. Why don't you close the door when you're showering? I covered my eyes, but couldn't help peeking through my fingers. She had just finished showering and was only wrapped in a towel, with nothing else on. Shinbuyu looked completely nonchalant. What are you afraid of? You've seen me like this since we were kids. My face turned so red it felt like it was on fire. You were the one who loved touching me in high school. I quickly covered her mouth, but to my surprise, she stuck out her tongue and licked my palm. She looked at me with eyes full of longing. In that instant, I felt like I was being shocked by electricity. My whole body went limp, and I almost fell. She quickly caught me before I slid down. Shinbuyu smiled lightly. Thanks you. I heard from people at the company that you had a dead white moonlight girlfriend, and you'd never marry anyone but her in this life. That person. Could it be me? She said this while moving closer, until I had nowhere to retreat. The steam from the bathroom filled the air, mingling with the fragrance of body wash. Don't flatter me. That was just a lie I made up to fend off harassment. Shinbuyu looked at me as if she saw right through me. I knew it, you like it. I'm an honest person. Shinbuyu and I had agreed to pretend we didn't know each other at the office. But this girl had broken the rules. After work at noon, Ziyin asked me to join her for lunch. I gestured at the boxed lunch in my hand, politely declining. Ziyin exaggeratedly teased. Wow, you actually started cooking? I awkwardly smiled and said, actually, this is made by Shinbuyu. She doesn't like me eating takeout because it's not clean, so she handles all the meals and chores. Suddenly, Ziyin spoke up. Hey, why does this meal taste exactly like Shinbuyu's cooking? I just came from Shinbuyu's office. I calmly responded, coincidence. Pure coincidence. Ziyin didn't think much of it, and casually replied, don't forget about our plans for tonight. The plans she mentioned were our monthly get-together for fun, the one where we'd unwind and relax. I had been so wrapped up in Shinbuyu these past few days that I had completely forgotten about it. I coughed lightly. I have something to do tonight, so I might not make it. What could you possibly have to do? We haven't had a meal together in days. We haven't had drinks either. I'll just head straight home. Is there a woman hiding at your place? Ziyin hit the nail on the head, and I quickly denied it. How could that be? Same place as usual, right before work ended. I finally gathered the courage to send Shinbuyu a green bubble. Don't wait for me tonight. I have something to take care of. She replied instantly, what's going on? Aren't you the one who promised me this morning that we'd go grocery shopping after work? I bit my lip. Let's go on the weekend. There's more time on the weekend. I tried to comfort her, but Shinbuyu didn't send any more messages. After work, Ziyin dragged me to our usual bar. He had already booked a private room. A group of new people had recently joined, and they were full of energy. Ziyin excitedly said, but I wasn't in the mood to listen. I kept checking my phone, and Shinbuyu still hadn't replied. It was after work, so why were you still looking at Shinbuyu's green bubbles? Looking at a beautiful woman, I quickly turned off my screen, raised my glass, and looked ahead. 3 tall, slender female models were already dancing on the stage. Ziyan was waving his hands and cheering from the front. The alcohol started to hit me, and Ziyan pulled me onto the dance floor. The atmosphere gradually heated up. Then one of the models pulled me and guided my hand to touch her exposed skin. An idea suddenly flashed through my mind. It feels much better than when I touched Shenbuyu. Before I could fully enjoy the moment, everything suddenly spun around, and I fell into a familiar embrace. "You're here?" Ziyan said, and hurriedly reached out to pull me away. "Fangs, you've got the wrong person. This is Shenbuyu, OT the model you picked. Get up." At that moment, I could have killed Ziyan. If he said it one more time, I would have exploded. But I didn't dare face Shenbuyu, so I just closed my eyes and pretended to be drunk. I buried myself in her arms. I couldn't see Shenbuyu's expression, but I only heard her cold voice. "It's fine. I'll take him home." Ziyan hesitated for a moment. "This isn't right. Didn't Fang Zhu tell you? I'm his dead childhood sweetheart." Ziyan froze in place. Before he could react, Shenbuyu had already picked me up and was walking away. "Stop pretending. We're already home." Shenbuyu placed me on the bed. I continued to close my eyes and pretended to be asleep, trying to get away with it. All I could hear was the sound of clothes rustling. Then my palm brushed against something soft. I quickly opened my eyes. I tried to pull my hand back, but it was tightly gripped by her wrist. I had no choice but to let her guide my hand. Shenbuyu's voice was hoarse. "You used to like this place the most, didn't you? There's no need to spend money on it." I didn't know where to look at that moment. I weakly spoke up. "Why are you acting like this?" Shenbuyu continued to question. "Who has a better touch, me or her?" It took me a moment to react. I realized she was referring to that female model from earlier. "Of course, it's you, Shenbuyu. That person can't compare to you at all," I thought to myself. While seriously experiencing the moment, I quietly swallowed. Noticing my movement, Shenbuyu curled her lips and directly pressed my head into her chest. I took a deep breath. Does happiness come so suddenly? I think I might be a little drunk. The latter half of the experience began to feel somewhat uncontrollable. Shenbuyu, for some reason, ended up lying down on the bed with me. She gazed at me with hazy eyes. Getting closer, she repeatedly asked if I liked her. I was too busy to deal with her, but I couldn't help wondering where she learned this seductive behavior. I unwillingly hummed a couple of responses. Shenbuyu hissed, pausing for a moment, and moved my head to the other side. With a threatening tone, she said, "If I catch you cheating again, you'll be done for." I dreamt I was being pushed around by a dog. When I woke up, I realized that the dog was Shenbuyu. Her eyes were bright, and she propped up her face, staring at me for who knows how long. When I touched my neck, it was all covered in her saliva. I kicked her off the bed. "What are you doing in my bed?" Shenbuyu glared at me as she got up from the floor. "Last night, you were the one who pulled me and didn't let me leave." "That's impossible." I quickly denied it, my eyes firm. "There's no way that happened." She immediately started taking off her clothes. I quickly closed my eyes. "Why do you strip anywhere you like? Can't you have a little self-respect?" Shenbuyu laughed angrily. "Now you're talking about self-respect? Why didn't you say that when you were eating? Now you don't want to admit it, huh?" The bite marks on her skin were still visible, clearly recording everything that happened last night. I couldn't pretend to have amnesia anymore. Feeling guilty, I retorted, "I don't remember." "Who knows where you went to collect your romantic debts? And dumped them all on me?" Shenbuyu stared at me for a moment, then coldly said, "Fine, just pretend it was some dog chewing on me." After that, Shenbuyu became cold and distant. I didn't ask her anything, and she never spoke first. She silently made the 3 meals and did the housework. At the office, she was like a stranger. She said nothing except for work-related matters. Why not? Can't you comfort her a little? She's been torturing us to death. After coming out of Manager Dai's office, Ziyan was screaming and shouting. Shen Bayu's temper had been noticeably bad these days. It was visibly getting worse. She wasn't satisfied with any of the versions of the plan. At the morning meeting, she even exploded with anger. I pursed my lips and honestly said, "What she wants, I'm just not ready for." I know what Shen Buyu wants. She's been saying since childhood that she wanted to be with me. We have a childhood sweetheart connection. But the years of silence between us can't be easily made up for. Back then, she left without a word. And after I got used to life without her, she suddenly barged into my world again. I don't know when she suddenly disappeared again. In this relationship, it seemed like I was the one in charge. But I was still being led by Shen Buyu. After listening to me, Ziyan hugged me. He cheered me up. "It's okay, brother. You can handle it. For your happiness, I won't give up either." The Cold War between Shen Buyu and me ended abruptly on the day of the class reunion. The class reunion was set for New Year's Day. Shen Buyu and I took separate routes and arrived at the private room one after the other. As soon as she entered, she became the center of attention. Immediately, people surrounded her. "Shen Buyu, it really is you. After seeing your message in the group, we thought your account had been hacked. We haven't heard from you in all these years. At that time, we only heard that you had a serious car accident and were hospitalized." Everyone thought. After Shen Bayu's accident, everyone was spreading rumors that she had died. After all, after the college entrance exams, Shen Buyu never came back to school. Shen Buyu Li spoke. "I was transferred abroad for treatment. I just came back recently." "Well, you're really something. You didn't even tell Fang Zhu." "Yeah, you two used to get along so well. We thought Fang Zhu must have known about it." But during those months, Fang Zhu was like a lost soul. He didn't even do well in the college entrance exam. Shen Buyu suddenly raised her eyes and looked at me. "He didn't do well in the college entrance exam?" "Yes. At that time, everyone thought you were dead. Fang Zhu got really sick." Suddenly being mentioned, I awkwardly grabbed a drink to hide my discomfort. Later, as Shen Buyu kept looking at me, I forced myself to keep chatting with the people around me. In the end, I couldn't bear her direct stare anymore. I took the chance to sneak away when I went to the bathroom, just as I was about to leave the hotel. Before I could even get a taxi, Shen Buyu blocked my way. "Did you really get sick and fail the college entrance exam because of me?" Her voice trembled a bit, almost in disbelief. I turned my head to the side. Such an embarrassing thing. "I don't want to talk about it." Back then, everyone thought Shen Buyu was dead. I couldn't stop myself from regretting it. I was already anxious and I ended up getting really sick, even though I didn't do terribly. In the college entrance exam, I just dropped from Tsinghua and Peking University to an ordinary school. But in the eyes of teachers and classmates, it's considered a failure. Shen Buyu suddenly choked up, tears falling down, hidden in her black coat. "I'm sorry. Step by step. I didn't know how important I was to you. Weren't you annoyed with me since we were kids? I thought you'd feel relieved if I died." Hearing these words, I couldn't help but lose my temper. All the grievances from these 8 years erupted. Relieved? I almost lost my life. If you were still my friend, why didn't you contact me for these 8 years? Why didn't you come find me? All these years, there wasn't a single word from her. Not even a phone call or an email. I didn't ask her, "Why didn't you come find me in these 8 years?" She never brought it up either. But in the end, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Didn't you say we'd never be apart? Then why did you leave for 8 years? Shen Buyu remained still, letting me hit her. Finally, when I was tired of hitting her, she slowly spoke. "I've wanted to contact you all these years. I've missed you so much I went crazy." She lifted her eyes to look at me. her eyes bloodshot. She suddenly bent down and rolled her pants up to her knees. That's when I saw it. From her ankles to her knees were long, ugly scars. The doctor said I wouldn't be able to stand again. I'm disabled now. I'm not worthy of the best Fang Zoo anymore. All these years, I've been seeking medical treatment and rehabilitation. I wanted to see you as the best version of myself. I'm sorry. I walked slowly on the way to find you. I stared blankly. My mind completely blank. All the things I couldn't understand suddenly made sense. No wonder she always took off her shirt, but never her pants. Now, when I walk with a normal person, it's no different, except that I walk a bit slower. Step by step. Don't reject me, Shen Buyu said, gently holding my hand, looking at me with nervousness and unease. Can you still fulfill the wish you promised me before the new year? The wish Shen Buyu mentioned was the one she made when she was taken to the ambulance 8 years ago. At that time, she was covered in blood, and I was so scared I was trembling all over. But Shen Buyu still had the presence of mind to joke with me. If I survive, after the college entrance exam, we'll be together. Okay. At that moment, I was so frightened. I didn't even think about the request. I immediately agreed. Now, she came back to collect. The clock hand silently moved to midnight. I don't know when snow began to fall on the streets. Suddenly, fireworks rose, illuminating the entire night. Shen Buyu, however, kept her eyes fixed on me, as if the noise of the whole world had nothing to do with her. I looked up, meeting her gaze, slowly exhaling. Of course, I'm not someone who just talks big. Shen Buyu froze for 2 seconds. Then her smile widened at the corners of her lips. She directly helped me up, pressing her forehead against mine. She acted coy, kiss me. I tilted my head proudly, no kiss. You've been chewed by a dog. You didn't get a rabies shot. Why are you holding a grudge like this? I refused with my words. But when her lips got close, I didn't pull away. Shen Buyu's lips were soft, so easy to kiss. After we officially got together, Shen Buyu became as clingy as when we were kids. 24 hours a day. She couldn't go for hours without being around me. She wasn't shy about it at work either. She would use work as an excuse to trick me into coming to her office for a kiss, making up for the Cold War from the other day. She proudly said, "Who told you not to take responsibility?" Fine. Anyway, I've never been able to deal with her since we were kids. I had already skipped 2 of Ziyan's get-together plans. Finally, the company gave us some time off. But this girl found even more excuses to stay in bed. After 3 days of fighting in bed, I finally managed to sneak out when she was asleep. Just as I was putting on clothes I hadn't worn in 3 days, I heard her hoarse voice from behind. "Where are you going?" I turned around, smiling to please her. "We're running out of rain gear at home. I'm just going out to buy some." As soon as I finished speaking, she responded, dripping with sarcasm. "Don't tell me you're using the time to buy stuff to sneak out and see a model. How could that be? I can't even handle one of you." Shen Buyu let out a light hum, reluctantly letting me go. "It's cold outside. You wait here. I'll go buy it." She tucked me into the warm bed. After all the physical activity these past few days, I ended up waiting and slowly drifted off to sleep. When I woke up, the whole room was pitch black. The other side of the bed had already grown cold. Shen Buyu hadn't returned yet. I felt a sudden unease in my heart. Then I received a call from the hospital. "Hello, are you a family member of Shen Buyu? Shen Buyu has been in a car accident. It's quite serious." After receiving the call, my mind went completely blank. I stumbled my way to the hospital. The supermarket was right across from the neighborhood, just 1 street away. How could this happen? On the way, I found out that she had taken to extra streets to go to a flower shop. On her way back, she was hit by a car running a red light driven by a drunk driver. In the middle of the street, There was a solitary bouquet of jasmine flowers, stained with red. I collapsed outside the emergency room, and for a moment, it felt like I was back to that day. Why is it that every time I'm the happiest, fate gives me such a hard blow? Why does the same thing happen twice? Every time it's related to me. Am I Shen Bayu's nemesis? Why did I have to sneak out today? If I had stayed, maybe Shen Buyu wouldn't have gotten into that accident. I was overwhelmed by guilt, humbly signing one after another of the critical condition notices, until the red light outside the operating room turned off. We did our best. The patient has only a little time left. Family members, if you have anything to say, please do so quickly. In an instant, my head was buzzing. I couldn't hear clearly what the doctor was saying. I didn't even know who was guiding me. But somehow, I found myself entering the operating room. Shen Buyu lay there quietly, and when she saw me, she gently curved her lips into a smile. In this moment of life and death, she still had the energy to joke. What should I do? Now I'm really going to become your white moonlight. Luckily, you burned enough incense for me before. As soon as I go down, I'll become the richest person. I rushed forward, bursting into tears. Shen Buyu, please leave me, okay? It's all my fault. I'm your nemesis. Shen Buyu shook her head weakly. Don't say that. You're my little lucky star. None of this is your fault. It's all that rude driver's fault. Her voice grew weaker. Live well with my share of happiness. Take care of yourself. Don't pick any more models. The ones outside aren't clean. I could hardly breathe, shaking my head nonstop. I don't want to. Why should I listen to you? If you dare die, I'll get 10 models to dance on your grave. Shen Buyu looked at me, her eyes full of longing and reluctance, as if she wanted to carve me into her mind. Be good. Promise me you'll live until you're 80, not a day less. After saying this, she slowly closed her eyes, falling into a deep sleep. The whole world was filled with joy, preparing to welcome the new year. But only I, on this day, lost my love. I kept crying, calling Shen Bayu's name over and over. But she would never respond again, until someone gently shook me awake. How do you feel? Does your head still hurt? A woman in a white coat. She looked at me with concern. I froze for 2 seconds, recognizing her as my psychologist, Li Shier. Wipe your tears. She handed me a tissue. I touched my cold face, realizing I had been crying uncontrollably. My heart was aching with a dull pain. I was still trapped in that dream. Shen Bayu's pale face was still clearly imprinted in my mind. Her words still echoed in my ears. She told me to live until I was 80. After a long while, I spoke with a hoarse voice. Dr. Li, what time is it? 6 in the evening. I looked out the window at the white snow. People hurriedly passing under the streetlights. For hours of deep hypnosis. Felt like 3 months to me. I slowly exhaled, my thoughts gradually returning to reality. Shen Buyu had never been resurrected. She had died 8 years ago. This was just a dream that the psychologist had fabricated for me. She didn't go abroad for treatment. Or did she die from post-surgery infection? She died on the spot after being hit by a car. She didn't leave a single word for me. The Shen family couldn't accept losing their only daughter in middle age. And less than 2 years later, they had another daughter for Shen Buyu. They moved overseas and never came back. From the beginning, Shen Bayu's parents never blamed me. They only said it was Shen Bayu's fate. But I couldn't help blaming myself. I always thought that if she hadn't come to find me, she wouldn't have gotten into that accident. Since then, I've been depressed for 8 years. Everyone around me told me to forget Shen Buyu. I've also tried many ways to forget her. But the more I try to forget, the more awake I become. Over the years, I've seen many psychologists, but none of them have eased my pain even a little. among them 3 very famous psychologists, said they could help me. Dr. Lee suggested I try desensitization therapy to desensitize myself to Shen Baiyu's death, to desensitize myself to the feeling of losing her. She believed that many of the promises I made to Shen Baiyu have yet to be fulfilled, that I didn't even get a proper chance to say goodbye, and that's what's stopping me from moving forward. I agreed. That's how all of this in the dream came about. She performed deep hypnosis on me, weaving one beautiful dream after another for me. She tried to fill in my regrets. In these dreams, Shen Baiyu is sometimes gentle, sometimes proud. Her voice, her smile, everything felt so real. And I needed to experience the pain of losing my loved one again and again. But the difference was, this time we had a complete goodbye. Through the repeated hypnosis, I became numb to Shen Baiyu's death. And this time, my emotions were stronger than before. I touched the empty spot in my chest. It felt like I could hear Shen Baiyu's sigh, step by step. Forget about me. After that hypnosis session, I suddenly started feeling better. I was full of energy for everything I did. After the new year, I brought some gifts and went to visit Li Xie at the hospital. She poured me a glass of water. You seem to be in a much better state recently. I smiled slightly. Yes, I'm doing well. 3 days after visiting Li Xie, I saw the news about the private hospital of Crossing being sealed off, and Li Xie being arrested. Apart from me, there were many other patients who were all used as experimental subjects by Li Xie. Unlike the others who were deceived, I had actually known all along that Li Xie had been using me as an experiment for hypnosis. It's because Shen Baiyu hadn't come to my dreams for a long time. I missed her so much, and Li Xie's deep hypnosis helped me see her, even if it was just a dream. Even if the dream ended with the loss of her, I could survive on through that dream. Shen Baiyu's birthday was in the spring. I made her favorite strawberry cake by hand and went to the cemetery. Shen Baiyu, happy 26th birthday. I gently stroked the photo on the tombstone. I have wrinkles now. How are you still so young? It's not fair. You're just the same as before. I'll eat 2/3 of the cake, and you can eat 1/3. I sat cross-legged beside her, quietly finishing the cake. After finishing the cake, I started to feel a bit sleepy. I leaned against the tombstone, and in a daze, it felt like I saw Shen Baiyu at 18. She was still wearing the jacket I gave her. Shen Baiyu, you finally came to get me. Shen Baiyu's extra. I had a little childhood friend. I've liked sticking to him since I was little. My biggest dream was to marry him, but I didn't even make it to marriage age before I died. Maybe it was because my attachments were too heavy. After my death, my soul wandered around the human world. At first, everyone was sad about my departure, but slowly, everyone forgot about me. Everyone had their new life. Even my parents had a little sister to replace me. Only Feng Zhu stayed in the same place. He was the only one trapped by this car accident. I saw him silently crying at night. I wanted to hug him, but I could only pass through his body. I wanted to stay with him, but they said that the longer I stayed near him, the weaker his body would become. I could only quietly watch him from a great distance. The so-called separation between life and death. I couldn't visit his dreams either. I saw that quack doctor approach him. I wished I could open my coffin. How could she use such a cruel method to make him repeatedly experience the pain of losing me? I shouted at him, "Forget about me already. I'm not that important." But my voice, he couldn't hear. Later, when his condition started to improve, I thought he finally let go. But I saw him mix sleeping pills into the cake. I panicked and couldn't think straight. I wanted to knock the cake over. I wanted to wake him up. But everything I did was in vain. I could only watch him eat the cake. In the end, he could see me. I gently hugged him. Was the cake bitter? He smiled at me and said, "It's very sweet."